Chinese nationalism was sparked by the Century of National Humiliation, which was marked by China's defeat in the Opium War in 1839 and the signing of the Treaty of Versailles in 1945. During this century, Chinese territory was taken from them by Germany after World War I and given to Japan in the Treaty of Versailles, which fueled the 1919 May 4th movement and anti-imperialist attitudes in China, along with an attack on the old Confucian hierarchical social order. Man. The goals of the CCP were to accelerate the economic development of the country and bring it back from the economic backwardsness created by the KMT, to create a modern and strong China, and to regain Chinese integrity in land that was once considered a part of China, and to fight against imperialism, man. The reason Mao stressed the differences between the Soviets and Chinese was because he never wanted the CPC to become the puppet of the Communist Party of the Soviet Union. Mao's distance from the Soviet Union began in the 1950s because of Mao's concern over the increasing amount of Soviet influence in China, man, and unreasonable demands of the Soviet Union, man. These demands included stationing Soviet forces in Dairan and Port Arthur, both of which are located in Manchuria, and the establishment of a joint Pacific fleet under Soviet command. Although Mao needed the Soviets' financial and technical support, he felt the Soviet Union involvement was too consistent with China's goals. The idea of self-reliance led to the Great Leap Forward in the Cultural Revolution. Mao's reliance on the peasantry class in China can be solely placed on his own upbringing throughout the beginning of his life. Zedong came from a peasant family that lived in Hunan province and was exposed firsthand to the struggle that occurred among the lower class. At the same time, he realized how crucial peasants were to the function of the country's agricultural sector. This led him to incorporate them in his political plans when he rose to power. Mao went on to promote any sort of peasant uprising as he believed it brought their communities together. These communities were only fighting local bullies and bad gentry and the lawless landlords in his eyes. The sense of community also impressed Mao through the use of struggle meetings in which peasantry would intimidate other peasants who had committed wrongdoing into confession. Zedong wanted this movement to spread across the nation, and it helped set up his Cultural Revolution. At the same time, Mao expected a lot from the peasants of China. He envisioned surpassing Western countries in the means of production for certain goods, such as steel, and went to the peasants to try to fulfill this goal. These communes would link thousands of households together as they undertake projects together. Although the idea of communes seemed like it would be a success, many issues came up, and communes generally would not meet the goals they would set. Also, the products would be produced were very low quality.
Mao Zedong believed that the only way the people of China could truly be liberated was by a constant revolutionary struggle, primarily the Cultural Revolution. The arguing that China's cultural historical heritage was the greatest impediment to revolutionary change, he decreed that the four old should be smashed: old thinking, old culture, old customs, and old habits. To rid the nation of counter-revolutionary and those who weren't in line with his ideology, Mao formed the Red Guard to encourage youths to join the revolution and use them to fulfill his goals. Mao communicated his ideas primarily through posters. Due to the fact one of his main targets was the uneducated peasants, he relied heavily on simplistic posters in order to convey this message. They were generally sunny, bright, and filled with happy people. Designed as weapons of revolution, these ubiquitous artifacts use compelling symbols to introduce new ideas, create allegiance, and inspire action. Mao's attempt to remove revolutionaries through violence and class struggle eventually ended in 1969, leaving millions persecuted and displaced. While it did create mass chaos and ultimately hurt communist China, Mao's goals to get rid of the four olds were fairly successful. Mao desired a strong military and believed it necessary for a strong communist state, and he saw violence as necessary to achieve a peaceful communist order. Although Mao believed in a strong military, he wanted to make sure that the Communist Party, not the army, was in full control of China. Mao, in following his ideals of permanent revolution, linked a modern industrial economy and correct socialist thought. Mao followed the Soviet model, viewing extremely rapid industrialization very positively because he claimed that economic backwardness caused spiritual restriction. Once Mao had full control of China, he showed a change in his previous reliance on peasants and progresses into a fast industrial urban focus, although he would later include the peasant class in his industrial plans. Mao looked for complete and modern industrialization, economic self-reliance, and focused on the idea of man over machine in his industrial process. Mao implemented his industrial ideology first during his Soviet-style 5-year plans. These plans, starting in 1953, were not as economically radical as Mao's true communistic goals, as they focused primarily on central economic planning and massive increases in steel and coal production. And steel production even improved from 7.6 million tons to 16.5 million tons of output from 1953 through 1957. And there was an increase in 30% of gross output value in this time period. However, Mao's ideological focus on industry did not benefit many peasants, and although the industrial focus was pragmatic in terms of economic development, Mao went in a different direction with his next industrial endeavor. In the Great Leap Forward, Mao's economic ideology took a turn for the radical, and after its failures, Mao's economic ideology stayed more conservative and centrally controlled, as it was during the 5-year plan. During the Great Leap Forward, Mao dictated that the people of China organize into communes and produce backyard steel.
And this community-run industrialization came from a more Marxist ideology that Mao began to spout. Mao said that he looked to make the Chinese people read and expert as opposed to poor and blank. Again, Mao linked his economic plans with his social and cultural goals for China. Last.